Coker versus Georgia, 1977. Elric Anthony Coker escaped from prison for which he was serving time for rape, murder, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. After escaping prison, he broke into the house of Alan and Elnita Carver. Mr. Coker threatened the couple and then locked Mr. Carver in the bathroom. He then stole a knife from the kitchen, stole money, stole the car keys, and then raped Mrs. Carver. Mr. Coker then drove off in the stolen car before being apprehended by the police. Mr. Coker was then convicted for rape, armed robbery, and other offenses. He was sentenced to death for the rape of Mrs. Carver, which was justified by the jury using two reasons. The first reason being that Mr. Coker had previous capital felony charges, and the second being that the rape of Mrs. Carver happened while committing armed robbery, which in itself is a capital felony. The Georgia Supreme Court affirmed both the conviction and the sentence. The court later held the sentence, reversed it, and remanded the case. Mr. Justice White, Mr. Justice Stewart, Mr. Justice Blackmun, and Mr. Justice Stevens concluded that the sentence of death for committing rape was disproportionate to the crime and was excessive. Therefore, it is forbidden by the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which prohibits the use of cruel and unusual punishment. The 8th Amendment forbids punishment that is excessive in relation to the crime that was committed. A punishment is considered excessive when it is purposeless and causes unnecessary pain and suffering. The death penalty was considered disproportionate for rape due to the fact that the state of Georgia was the only state that allowed capital punishment for the rape of an adult woman. Also, on average, 9 out of 10 rape convictions in the state of Georgia have not imposed the death sentence since 1973. The justices go on to reason that rape, as opposed to murder, does not take a human life, so the death penalty is not warranted. The reasoning that the death sentence was disproportionate for rape was not affected by the prior convictions of Mr. Coker, even though his prior convictions themselves could have warranted the death sentence. Lastly, under Georgia law, a deliberate killer can't be sentenced to death, so a rapist who did not take the life of his victim should not have a harsher punishment than a killer. The court's decision in Gregg v. Georgia and others settled that the death penalty is not considered cruel and unusual punishment, and it is not always disproportionate to the crime that was committed. However, it was concluded that the death sentence for the rape of an adult woman is excessive punishment and is now, therefore, forbidden by the 8th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America.